Welcome back to our channel. This is Hadi and Bob, and today on Hadi and Bob's show, we'll be talking about cultural differences between America and Africa, and we'll be talking specifically on five different things. So, without any further ado, let's jump right in. In America, I noticed that the way kids are raised are totally different from the way African kids are raised. Most of the time, we talk about our upbringing, and my husband is always like, "This is so different." And of course, if you're in America and you are not born in America, and you look at how kids are raised here, you will agree with me that it's totally different from the way African kids are raised. Number one thing about the way kids are raised in America is they are raised to be independent. In Africa, we were raised to be highly disciplined. That is, we follow rules. So as a child, I can't remember interrupting my parents when they're talking because that's considered rude. You cannot talk back to them and you cannot ask questions like why. In America, kids as young as 3, 4, 5, when you ask them to do something, they're asking you why. So to me, it's totally different. So that's one thing I've noticed about the way kids are raised in America. And also, when kids become adults in America, they really don't think of taking care of their parents. In Africa, when you reach an adult or adulthood, you're expected to give back to your parent in terms of not giving back in such a way, but you actually taking care of your parents. We believe that your parents raised you. So when you become an adult and you're working, it doesn't mean your parents are poor. It doesn't mean they cannot fend for themselves. It's just a cultural thing that children are raised in Africa for them to also give back to their parents. So, for example, after I started working, as a matter of fact, the first salary you receive as an adult when you start working in Africa belongs to your parents. So when you start working, whatever amounts you get as your first pay in Africa, you have to take that money back to your parents. And I remember doing that. But what my dad did, he collected the money and prayed and returned the money back to me. Of course, they will say the money belongs to your parents. That's the culture. Your parents should take the money and it's theirs. But my parents, of course, it's not like they need your money, but it's just a way of showing respect and regard to your parents. And that is the culture. And I think it's a beautiful culture. But sometimes when I talk with my husband, it sounds so strange to him. Your child is working and giving you back the money. It doesn't happen here. They grow and their parents keep spending on them until the parents dies. That is the culture. They don't see any reason why they have to take care of their parents. Not because the parents are poor, but because it's just obligatory. It's just something that you should do because they raised you. So when you become an adult, it's expected that you also give back to your parents. So, honey.
Well, I think that's a lovely tradition, and I'm just thinking it'd be really great. But that's not, it seems like what we do in the United States is that the parents pay for everything. They were expected to pay the majority, if not all, college expenses. Basically, the kids get free room and board, and our job as parents is to make them independent so that they fly the nest and support themselves. And the thought of having them actually support the parents is very foreign. It's just not something that I have experienced at all. That's not the tradition here. I think it's a lovely tradition. I'm a little bit envious, honestly.
Well, we are not trying to reach a conclusion, but I think American kids should give back to their parents in terms of supporting their parents. It doesn't mean your parents are poor. And that's why I don't really want to use the word support. It's just a way of you giving back to your parents to show appreciation for them raising you. So kids should try to inculcate that. American kids should try to inculcate that into their culture. It's a nice thing to do. As a matter of fact, I don't think it should even be a cultural thing. It should be a universal thing that kids should honor their parents when they become adults and they start working. You should give back to your parents. It's a lovely thing. They pray, like I said, my dad collected the money from me. He prayed over the money and returned the money to me. That was my first salary after becoming an adult and I started working. My very first salary, I took it back to my parents. But subsequently, I sent money to my parents for upkeep. My parents are well to do. They actually don't need my money because they have their own money. But it makes them happy. It gladdens their heart that this child is actually appreciative of all the things they did, raising me and making me to become independent, and now I'm able to work and fend for myself. I'm not going to leave my parents. I'm not going to say no. So I think it should be a universal thing. We should all imbibe that culture of taking care of our parents when we become adults.
Well, one of the things that I love about that is that it just seems to me it creates a whole attitude and atmosphere of abundance. It's like, I know you don't need the money, mom and dad, but I'm doing really well, so I'm going to send you money also. And that it just seems like the kind of thing that what I've observed in Addie's family is that the more that the kids give to the mom now, since her father's passed on, but the more the kids give to their mom, the more abundant they and wealthy they get.
Absolutely.
It does not seem to affect their wealth at all.
Absolutely. Of course, the Bible says it's more blessed to give than to receive. So give us never, when you give, especially when you give to your parent, you are honoring your parent. The Bible says honor your father and your mother so that your days can be long in the land of the living. So that's also coupled with the fact that it's biblical. It has godly principle as well. It's backed up by godly principle that you give back to your parents. So I think it's a good thing to really give to your parents.
Awesome.
So
What's next?
So the second thing on our list, the second cultural difference is communication style. In America, it's actually mind-blowing. I have friends, colleagues that sometimes when we talk, we have an office banter and we talk about family stuff. A lot of people don't even communicate with their siblings in America. I can remember a lot of times I will ask my husband, have you called your brother this week? Have you talked to your sister this week? And not fighting, they are cool, but it's not just their thing. They really don't communicate that often. But as for us, generally Africans, they communicate, we have that bond with each other. For example, in my family, we communicate often. Sometimes we have a chat, a group conference call. We just talk maybe once a week. We get on the conference call. We talk about everyone, what's going on in your life, what's new, what do you need help with. We just do that. We want to be at the same page. You want to know what's going on in each other's life, and we just think it's a good thing. But in America, they just don't communicate. Some of them don't even see each other. Even if they're living in the same neighborhood, they really don't care. So that's shocking to me. As a matter of fact, I have to say it's shocking because I've heard a lot of people say, well, why should I call my sister? Why should I call my brother? Well, I don't know, but it's a bit strange to me, I should say.
Well, and that I think that's another lovely aspect of your culture. And just to put things in perspective, how long has it been since you've seen your mom?
Going on 9 years.
9 years. She hasn't seen her mom because she's been in the United States. Her mom's in Nigeria. But how often do you speak to your mother?
Oh my goodness. If my mom doesn't hear from me in 2 days,
2 days?
I'm in trouble. She's gonna call everyone to say, did you hear from your sister? I've been trying to text her. I've been trying to call her. She's not responding. Sometimes we are busy. 2 days is not too long. My mom will worry if she doesn't hear from you in 2 days.
So, how do you feel like that has impacted the bond with your mom? Even though you haven't seen her in person, how has that increased communication?
It doesn't even feel like I haven't seen my mom. It doesn't feel that way because we talk on video calls, we talk regularly. So it feels like we see each other. That's how I feel. So I really don't feel that much gap between us in terms of geographical space between us.
I think just going back to the cultural thing, this independence thing. I just think once we're out of the house, we're away from our family, we have our own little friends, we have our own family now. We don't need to call our brothers and our sisters. And I have seen how you communicate with your brothers and your sister And it's not like you're reintroducing yourself. It's like you're just catching up on the previous conversation.
Right.
It's like you never stop communicating.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I am trying to up my game with my brother and sister also. Not as well as she's doing. But I think that's another lovely aspect of the Nigerian culture that I wish we had more of here.
That's very true. My brothers are in different countries, but I can tell you everything up to date in their lives. Everything up to date. So there's nothing missing. I know everything going on with them, and they know everything going on with me. So
Well, I just think it's also cool that when they call, I'm learning to be close to her because she'll say, Victor wants to talk to you. Emmanuel wants to talk to you. Yeti wants to say hi to you. And so they reach out to me too. They want to know what's going on in my life, how things are going, how I'm doing. And I can't tell you the last time I talked to my sister's husband. And that's an indictment on me as much as anybody else. But I feel like I'm missing out when I hear the conversations and how close they are and how intimately they know about what's going on in each other's lives, even though they're far away. Her brothers are in Great Britain. How long has it been since you've seen them?
Same time.
9 years. And it's like they've never been apart. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. What's the third thing, sweetie?
Yeah, so the third thing is about education. So this has two prongs to it. As a matter of fact, I love the American education system. It's very good. Sometimes I'm amazed on how much a third grader knows about stuff. In Nigeria, let me use Nigeria as a case study. Even secondary school students don't know as much as fourth or sixth grader in America. No. So there are different prongs to talking about education in America. As a matter of fact, the education system here is very solid. Sometimes I'm amazed on how much a fifth grader knows about life generally compared to how much a JSS2 student or JSS3 students will probably be at the same level, knows about life generally. So
how much older would they be than the fifth grader?
A JSS3 junior high school student in Nigeria should be about 13, 14 years.
13 versus 11 or 12.
The education system in Africa is a bit different in the sense that I went to a boarding school. In America, they usually don't have a lot of boarding schools. The other day, we were trying to look up secondary boarding school for our kids, and we couldn't even find one.
What age do you leave for boarding school?
So I was in boarding school from JSS1 to SS3. Everyone in my family.
What ages would that be though?
That's from 10 years to about 16 or 17.
This is away from home.
That is away from home. That's one thing that I noticed about American education system. They really don't have boarding schools for children of that age. But in Nigeria, we have boarding schools. I think about 90% of secondary school children in Nigeria go to boarding schools.
Now, if you talk to parents here, they would probably freak out and think, well, I'm going to traumatize my child. I'm going to affect my child forever, and I won't have any responsibility for them. Did you feel in any way traumatized by going to boarding school?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, when you go to a boarding school, it really helps with child's upbringing and discipline. So boarding school to me should be strongly encouraged. I know it might not be part of their culture in America to send a child to a boarding school at that young age of 10. But in Nigeria, when you go to a boarding school, you learn a lot.
Well, how do you feel it helped you?
It's helped me because, number one, there's a school structure that you have to keep up with. You have a school structure that you have to strictly adhere to. So that on its own is discipline. When you are in boarding school, you have to wake up very early. Everything is structured. You have a time to wake up. You have a time to go to the dining for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have a time like siesta time that you have to be in bed. You have night out when all the lights have to be off or out for the night. So you are structured. That alone is discipline that can help shape a child's life. In America, I've been to a school when I was doing like a paraprofessional program. I did a field assessment, and I was in one school, and this child came to school very late. And he walked into the classroom majestically, even when, the class already started. You cannot do that. In Nigeria, you have to be in the assembly hall by maybe 7 or 8 throughout the assembly time. And when the assembly is over, when your classmates, are going to their classrooms, you see people running because you don't want to miss that time. When you do, you have to get punished. So nobody wants to do that because you will either miss the first lesson for that day just by picking up trash and all of that. You pick up, sometimes you have to go to the office and they give you something to sign, like a warning, you understand? So, and when you do that 2-3 times, you can be suspended. Or here, you can imagine someone coming to school very late and at the same time walking majestically into that was looking at the student. I'm like, oh my goodness. Seriously? You were late. You were supposed to be running. In Nigeria, people, they will run to make sure that they don't miss the assembly time, because that's a problem for you. When you see all your mates are standing, teachers are standing, and you're just walking in. No, you cannot do that. So I think board code will help a child to really grow with that knowledge of discipline, because everything is structured. You have no parent there to tell you no. So you have to abide by the school rules. Otherwise, you'll be suspended, and nobody wants to be suspended. So I think it's very good. But in America, they don't have that.
Well, that also sometimes in American schools, the culture is against academics. In fact, a lot of kids that do very well academically get made fun of. Is that in any way different than the way it is in Nigeria?
Wow. In Nigeria, I would say there's a competition. Most parents know each other, and it will be so disgraceful to know that, oh, if you don't do well, this person is going to know, their parent is going to know how it's going to. So every parent is constantly reminding their child, you have to do well.
So even though you're at boarding school, your parents are very aware of your progress and how things are going.
Yeah, sure. You go home with your result at the end of the term. They see your performances, and you visit once every month, and you check also records, results, and all of that. So they do that.
Well, again, that sounds like it's working out, because a lot of Nigerians do very well
Absolutely.
academically.
So, of course, I tell people, Nigerians, they say, no, they carry last. So it's a thing of pride to parents to see that their children do well. And again, because we have this interconnectedness relationship in Nigeria, most of my friends that we grew up in the same neighborhood, and it's like you don't want your friends to leave you behind.
Right.
Do you understand? So, because every parent is telling their child, you have to do well, and you see your friends, your classmates, your neighbors, they are doing well. No one is going to tell you, and everyone is moving forward. You want to move forward, and they don't stop from degree to masters to PhD. So without even anyone telling you, you already setting a goal for yourself, because you have your friends and they're all doing well. Hardly will you see an average Nigerian family whose kids don't go to school. Everyone goes to school.
It seems to me like we could do a whole episode just on the education system, but that sounds great. Let's go on to the next one. What's the next thing?
The fourth cultural difference between America and Africa is the expression of their faith. In Nigeria, we love to go to church. As a matter of fact, we have people who go to church 5 days a week. That's totally strange to America, in the sense that it's just a Sunday thing here, and the length of the service in America, it's just an hour. First time is that it, because how are we done? In Nigeria, the minimum you can do on a Sunday service is going to be between 2 to 3 hours. So there are lots of activities involved in their Sunday worship service. But in America, they keep it short and simple, and it's I just love it. So I go to a white church. I don't know if I should call it a white church, but I go to a predominantly white church. And I just love it because everything is snappy, straight to the point. And another thing about the American expression of faith is most, this is just so, I'm awestruck with this. I've moved with a lot of white Christians in America, and I see that the way their relationship or the way they express their faith is just so personal, which is one thing that I really appreciate about Americans going to church. In Nigeria, someone can go to church today, tomorrow can go to a mosque. They believe they can do the whole three together. But here, I think they just stick to whatever they believe in, and that's very unique. So the expression of their faith is just something, it's amazing. I love it, and I think I love the way they express their faith in America than in Africa.
More even than Africa, you
Yeah.
say?
What do you have to say to that?
Well, people talk in the United States about that God is dead, that people have quit going to church. That hasn't been our experience. The churches we've gone to are very vibrant and alive. And I think there's a bit of a resurgence, but the people know that for the most part, the people that we've met have been very sincere. They live their experience of religion and their faith, and I've been happy with it. We haven't gone to black churches here. The black churches are, I think you'd find a little different as far as time. The black churches I've been to are usually 2 to 3 hours, sometimes longer.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah. So maybe I think it's just depends on what churches you go to. But
That's true. And another thing is white churches, they really don't pray. I don't know why. That's just one aspect of their program that I really don't like. They don't pray, they don't really dance. I love to dance and I love to pray. So in Nigeria, I think the first 30 minutes of the service is dedicated to just praise and worship, dancing. If you have not exercised that week, I can assure you that on a Sunday morning, you're gonna shake off all the tight burdens in your body because you're gonna dance. They dance a lot, and that's just one thing I miss about African churches. They dance and they pray so well. They pray for a very longer time than in a white church. They, to me, they just say a prayer and that is it, maybe under 1 minute. And they sing hymns. They really, some sing contemporary songs, but they really don't dance. They just move their head. So that's totally new to me. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to adjust, but it's just something that I find difficult to curtail. Going to church and you don't have to pray that long or dance. It's just something that it doesn't really go down well with me, but I'm adjusting.
if you want to dance, honey.
Well, when they're singing their hymns and everyone is just holding their hands and just singing, I move around, I dance, I shake my body. I really don't care. I'm in church to worship God because I cannot just stand still while they're singing. But that's what they do. They stand still and just read.
Well, it sounds like we could do a whole episode on church. We've opened a can of worms here.
So I think American churches should do a bit of dance and maybe increase their prayer time. That would be good.
All right. Next.
So finally, last thing we have to talk about is finances. So the fifth cultural difference between American and Africa is their finances, and I'm gonna talk more on the credit system. In Nigeria, we buy stuff outrightly. No financing, it's prepaid. You want to own a house, you start from scratch, you pay for the land, you stop at that point. If you don't have money to start the foundation, you try to raise some money. When you have it, you do your foundation. When you don't have money again, you stop it at that level. You try to save up, then you do. They just take their time to build their house, and when the house is complete, then it's their house. They don't have to pay mortgage on it. That's kind of fading away in some parts of Nigeria, like in Lagos. People now owe mortgage on their homes. But that's not the culture in Africa, especially in Nigeria, is that you build your house and it's yours. You don't buy cars on credit. You buy a car when you have your money. But here in America, everything is built with credit. You have a house, you're paying mortgage on it. You have a car, you're paying mortgage on it. I wouldn't say it's totally bad. It's not bad. And I tell people, and this is one thing about foreigners in America, even some Americans, they're afraid to even get credit card because they're like, oh, debt. But I think it teaches having a credit card and those stuff. It teaches financial responsibility. I have about 7 credit cards. I think my husband said, that's crazy.
I think I did say that.
When I told him, I said, I have about 7. But the first prompt, the first instinct of him is like, you have 7 credit cards. That means you must be paying interest on those cards? And I said, no, I've never paid interest on any of those cards. Even if I had to pay interest, maybe just charge me $2-3. So I don't really hold that, so much balances on my credit card that will warrant them to charge me interest, because a lot of people will think, of course, when you don't pay the balance of your statement balance for a month, they're going to charge you interest on the balance, right? But what I try to do is I make sure that I don't hold, and I've never hold on my credit card in terms of I've never missed a payment. And I try to pay it down if it's a card I've used maybe to pay, maybe usually why I will hold so much on my credit card is maybe I use it to pay for my education. I wouldn't just spend credit card frivolously on something that is not so important to me. So that's the only time I think I will hold much, maybe using it to pay part of my school fees. But even at that, I don't owe, I've never missed a payment. It teaches financial responsibility. There's nothing wrong in you having credit card, because I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people, they'll be like, no, I don't want to have credit cards because it's just debt. So you can have credit cards. There's nothing wrong. You can have mortgage, because the only way you can own a house in America is you having a mortgage. I don't think anyone is able to buy a house utterly except you're a politician.
Don't go there. A lot of the politicians have enough money to buy a house for cash, but most of us don't. We have to finance it. Again, it seems like we could do a whole episode on the finance things too.
Guys, thank you for listening to us.
If you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, consider subscribing, and we'll talk to you on our next video.
Thank you.